Welcome to the X-Files. And no, before you even ask, we are not teaching you how to slide back into someone's DMs at 2 a.m. with a, "Hey, you up?" We tried that approach in the pilot episode, and honestly, the legal department shut it down immediately. This is episode 6 of season 1, The Anatomy of the Aftermath. And today we are talking about the one thing your therapist probably suggested, your friends definitely suggested, and your mother has been suggesting since approximately 3 days after the breakup. We are talking about travel. Solo travel. Pack a bag, board a plane, figure out the metro system in a city where nobody speaks your language kind of travel. But here is the thing. We are not doing the cliche, find yourself in Bali montage today. We are going deeper than that. We are going to perform a full autopsy on why solo travel after a breakup is one of the most psychologically powerful things you can do for your brain, your body, and your entire philosophical framework for existing as a human being on this planet. Welcome to episode 6, The Solo Expedition. Changing your latitude to change your attitude. Let me paint you a picture. It is Tuesday. You are sitting in the apartment that still smells faintly like their shampoo. Your last 5 Google searches are variations of the same question. You have watched every video in the moving on section of the internet. You have eaten cereal for dinner twice this week, and you told yourself the third time it would be granola, so technically that is different. You are stuck. Not emotionally stuck in a dramatic, interesting way. Just stuck. Like a browser tab that won't refresh. Same location, same thoughts, same 4 walls that have witnessed entirely too much. Here is what nobody tells you about grief after a relationship ends. Your brain is literally addicted to the familiar. Neuroscientists have a phrase for this. Context-dependent memory. Every corner of your environment is a trigger. The coffee shop where you used to go on Sunday mornings. The playlist you can no longer play in the car. The route home that passes their street. Your environment is essentially a museum dedicated to a relationship that no longer exists, and you are the curator who cannot stop giving yourself the tour. This is why changing your geography is not running away. It is not avoidance. It is neuroscience. When you physically remove yourself from those environmental triggers, you give your brain the chance to stop firing those old neural pathways like a broken smoke alarm. You land somewhere new, and your brain has to deal with the present moment because the present moment is suddenly extremely demanding. Where is the hotel? What currency is this? Why is everyone walking so fast? Why does this coffee taste different, and why do I love it? Suddenly, you are here. Actually, here. For the first time in weeks. Now let us talk about why solo specifically. Because everyone will offer to come with you. Your best friend will volunteer immediately. Your sibling will say they have been meaning to travel anyway. Someone from your past will absolutely materialize with suspiciously perfect timing. And here is the satire portion of today's programming, because we must honor the format. You could bring them. And you would spend the entire trip consulting another person about every restaurant, every activity, every detour. You would take photos for 2. You would compromise on destinations. You would have someone to fill every silence. And when you got home, you would have had a lovely vacation with absolutely 0 personal growth and a storage full of content for social media. Solo travel breaks that pattern entirely. When you are alone in a foreign city, you are the only executive in the building. You decide which street to turn down. You decide whether to order the thing you cannot pronounce and just point at it dramatically. You decide to stay at the viewpoint for an extra hour because something about the light hitting the water is doing something to your chest that feels important. Nobody is waiting. Nobody is checking their phone. Nobody is cold and ready to leave. It is just you and the decision and the consequence of the decision and the discovery that you are actually quite capable of handling all 3 simultaneously. This is what we call the self-reliance test. Not the dramatic survival show kind where you build a fire and drink your own tears. The quiet daily version. The kind where you navigate a bus system using a translation app and 3 gestures and somehow arrive at the right destination and feel disproportionately proud of yourself. That pride is not small. That pride is data. It is your nervous system collecting evidence that you are competent, capable, and functional without a co-pilot. And after a breakup, when your self-concept has taken a significant hit, that evidence is genuinely priceless. Think about it this way. Your last relationship was, in some capacity, a team sport. You made decisions together, defined yourselves partially through each other, navigated life with a built-in collaborator. When that ends, there is a version of you that legitimately forgets what it feels like to just be themselves without context. Solo travel forces the question: who do you want to have dinner with tonight? You. Where do you want to go tomorrow? Wherever you want. What kind of traveler are you? Find out. The answers will surprise you, and they will also start to reassemble something inside you that needed reassembling. Now we arrive at the most important concept of this entire episode, and I need you to pay attention because this is the psychological payload we have been building toward. It is called awe. Capital A. And this is not a soft, vague word. This is a documented, researched, measurable psychological state that has been shown to reduce anxiety, shrink self-focused thinking, and create what researchers describe as a sense of the vast that makes your personal problems feel appropriately sized against the scale of existence. Awe is what happens when you stand in front of something so enormous, so intricate, or so beautiful that your brain genuinely cannot process it within your existing frameworks. It is looking up at a cathedral ceiling that took 200 years to build, and realizing that every person involved in that construction lived their entire life, their entire love story, their entire heartbreak, within the time it took to finish one section of the vault. It is standing at the edge of a canyon at sunrise and watching the light change the color of the rock face in real time and feeling your own narrative get very quiet and small, not insignificant, just appropriately scaled. There is a difference. Psychologists Daché Keltner and Jonathan Haidt defined awe as the experience of encountering something vast that challenges and expands your current understanding of the world. And here is the deeply ironic thing. Awe is the antidote to the post-breakup spiral, not because it distracts you from it, but because it gives you genuine perspective on it. You are not pretending it does not hurt. You are placing it inside a larger universe that was always there, that you had temporarily forgotten to look at. This is why travel after a breakup is not about escaping your feelings. It is about finding the right context for them. You cannot find that context in your apartment. You cannot find it in the same city with the same coffee shop and the same cereal for dinner. You need a foreign street, a different sky, a building that has outlasted empires, a mountain that does not care about your timeline, and a moment of awe that reminds you that you are part of something absolutely extraordinary and you have barely even started. Here is your expedition brief for this week. Pick a destination. It does not need to be international. It does not need to be expensive. It needs to be unfamiliar. 1 night minimum, alone. No agenda except 2 things. Navigate something that feels slightly too hard for you. And deliberately seek out 1 moment of awe. Natural, architectural, culinary, cultural, whatever form it takes for you. Find the vast. Stand in it. Let it do its work. Come back to the X-Files next episode where we continue the anatomy of the aftermath and figure out what philosophy has to say about building a life that your previous self would genuinely be impressed by. If this episode delivered something useful to you, here is what I need from you right now. Hit like, because it helps more people in the middle of their Tuesday cereal find this channel. Subscribe, because Season 1 is only getting more interesting from here and you absolutely cannot miss what is coming in Episode 7. Share this with one person who needs a solo expedition more than they know. And drop a comment below telling us where you would go if you left tomorrow. No filter. First destination that comes to mind. We will read every single one. Now, go book the trip. The world is considerably larger than your apartment, and your awe is overdue.